Welcome. My name is Mark Anthony Dubois Jr. I was born July 4th, 1986. And I want to say thank you for tuning in. Now, I've been talking about this dog stuff and talking about Jesus stuff, and I kind of want to talk about some of the main things that I've been kind of focusing the majority of my energy on. And that's like these chickens right here. I've been talking about dogs. They're cool, but chickens are different because they're more, dogs are fairly independent, but they still like to really band together for the most part. Whereas the chicks, they kind of just do their own stuff. They're really fascinating. They are all individual type beings that they're on their own mission of life. And there's something that I've been doing, which I would say is my experiments of being my own scientist, to be able to try out some things and do some stuff. And I just want someone to hear about what it is that I've experienced with working with some chickens because it's fascinating. I'm telling you, the world, the stuff on the lands is like a representation in reality of just what we as humans are. It's very interesting to just see how it all like comes together. But these chickens here, so pretty much everyone's I always get, they're caged. I cage them in a way of I got to keep the little baby chicks safe, you know. So they're always on the structure. They know when they're going to get fed. They know where the water comes from. They know how to stay safe because the biggest danger I'm going to say that they have is my dogs in reality up front, and not even just the dogs, but I'm going to say their master. Their master is the border collie, Oreo. He's the master of these chicks. He's the enforcer. He's the ruler. He's the one that knows how to effectively communicate to get them to move. He can be gentle. He can be more just ruthless if he needs to be, and he knows what he needs to do based on what's going on with the balance back and forth with the chicks. So at first, the chicks are just in, I'm going to say, is extreme control, extreme lockdown. They have a strict schedule that they have to do. Let's just think about this for a moment. It's kind of what we do as humans for children. They go to school. They have the strict. Everything is just lined up to like, in reality, keep you safe. Make sure that you're fed. You don't have to do nothing. You just have to be alive. You get food. You get exercise. You get to be able to hang out. You get to be able to experience the world, but you don't have any like straight up responsibilities. You don't have anything to have to deal with. That's what these chickens get. But there's an interesting transition that starts to happen because I start to open the door up at a certain age when they start to become just the more, the word I want to use here is hardier, of being able to know that they have full feathers and they're going to be able to survive. At first, they're fluffy and they're furry. They had the rain, the anything they can take its life because they're super sensitive. They don't have a tough enough body to be able to handle the world. So I open the door up and I allow them to, this is my experiments because I've done this so many times. I've raised, I don't know, thousands of chicks and chickens at this point right now. And I just keep seeing the same stuff. But they'll come out. Pretty much, I'll say like 99% will come out of that door when I open the door up. And they start to go around and do stuff. But the first thing that happens is the first test of life. The dog comes. What are you going to do next? And when the dog comes, most of them run right back inside again because they realize the world is it's said freedom. There's the availability to do, but there's some things out there that can hurt you, can harm you, and things out there in reality that, just put it in the sense of what the border collie is all about. He wants to control them. He wants to tell them what to do. He wants to show them where to go. And when the chicks start to get nervous, that's when the dogs start to get like, that's when that dog really activates to do what he has to do. When they're nervous, when they're calm, that's why it's just, some people seen some of my videos of my dogs being around the chicks and stuff. It's much easier because the ones that are free, oh, we'll get there. But when they're calm, the dogs just walk around them. They don't pay them any attention. But when they're all like frantic, it's like the dog's mission to say, you need to do something about that. I got to put you somewhere. So the dog will put it right back in the coop because that's what the dog learns. And that's what the chicks learn right away. Your safety, go back home. Go inside the house. You'll be safe in there. Because for me, I never allowed the dogs to go in the coops. My big one over here, I don't care at night when they're all asleep and on their little resting thing. But like, especially in this one here, there's no one allowed in there. I don't even go in there personally. Nothing goes in there. So that's their safety net. And what starts to happen is majority of them will stay at that house. They won't leave. And if they do walk out of that door, especially when the dog comes to say, hey, you're scared, go back home then. The majority, I'm going to say 80+% of them, they stay in that coop. They go back to it and sleep at night. But some of them, they'll come out and move around a little bit. They'll explore some. And they'll explore some, especially when they realize like, oh, okay, the dog's not out. We can work now. But as soon as the dog comes out, they get that fear response kicks in and they shoot and they run right back inside again. But something happens to some of them. Some of them they just go out, they just make it happen. They just don't care. They just have this, I wanna experience more and be able to do more in my life. I want to be able to just see what happens. And then when that fear kicks in, instead of them running back, they run forward into the unknown. They're like, I don't know what's past this house. Because most of them, I always start back. What's up, man? I always start in this backyard back here. And which is fascinating that all of the ones that are free right now, they always go to the front. And this is 14 acres out here. And these chicks today, they go all the 14. I mean, some of them were, unfortunately, I had to like put a little extra training on them because they're going past the fence and going into the easement on the road. I'm like, you stay away from the road. But that's far. It's over a quarter mile from here. These chickens are walking around all out there because they decided I'm going to push past that fear instead of just running right back into it and staying in that fear. Because there's some, like especially these roosters here, they stayed here their entire life. They've been in here the whole time. So these guys are probably like 2 years old at least now. If I open this door up, they go right back in there. They're like, there's dogs out here, there's people out here, there's stuff out here, there's hawks out here, there's skunks out here, there's everything out here. But if we stay in here, we're good to go. They never got past that fear. They just stayed in it. And they just accept that. But there's one thing that is just the most, I'm going to say, fascinating thing, that when they finally go past that fear, they go past it and they just go forward into the unknown. They live a way, way, way better life. They go find their own place because now all my free range, they sleep in the trees. I got a coop here that I leave open just to, if y'all want to go in there or not, but they sleep in the trees. They sleep in the barn. They are something, they find their own way and they're looking at getting all of their own food. And what's interesting about that is those ones that are free, I used to be nervous of like, they're not going to make it. They're going to starve. They're not going to be able to thrive at all. But they are actually the most hardiest, biggest, plumpest, just fastest, most agile ones that are out here. Because they're no longer relying upon said me, that master that comes with that food. Because I only put so much food in there. I don't just give them just you guys have an overabundance to just have a unlimitedness out here. You have this amount that I give you. And when it's over with, the next day you'll get it. But the ones that are free, they have a chance now to be able to get what they want, when they want, however they want, as much as they want. And as harder that they work to get it, the more that they have. And this thing that I believe we're struggling with on this planet is a simple thing that I see with these chickens. When I raise them, because I've raised some just straight up outside, I went straight from the brooder because that's how my back coop is out there. It's technically outside. It's not caged. But even here in the front, I can take you over there next video to show you. They like to break out as just little baby fluff balls. Don't even have feathers yet. And they just live. And y'all do what you do. Just see what happens. But it's something interesting about that is when they're in here, like granted, these roosters are being really polite right now. But they fight. They bicker. They battle. They argue. They're always like, who's the toughest? Who's the strongest? There's always conflict going on. It's just never peace. It's always conflict. And the main thing I want to say about that is because they don't have to worry about living, surviving. They're just accepting, I want to straight up say, is defeat. This is all that I'm going to be. This is all that we're going to ever be able to have. Whatever they give me for when I come with the food, whatever I give them, they're like, oh, that's all that we should ever be able to have. That's it. I'll just take those crumbs. Literally, essentially what I give them as opposed to the overall abundance that's out here. I give them the crumbs where there's unlimited out here. I only am able to give them a certain amount and they just accept it. They just say, okay, we'll just take that. We'll deal with that to stay safe so that we can be able to have a chance to live the next day. And that's where I'm going to say is the animals, because the ones that we as humans cage, because when I don't cage them, they do different stuff. But when we cage them, when we intervene as humans, we start to disrupt them to be like us, I'm going to say. And that's where I start to see the flaws in us as humans. Because what the animals are supposed to be doing is working all day. Like literally, it's fascinating to be out here just to see them. Right away in the morning, I think it's a little later now. So it's like 6:30. it starts to, the sun is, you can, it comes up over there, but it's starting to come where it's just like we could barely see. And the free chicks, they're instantly like, oh, hey, let's go do something. And they start to get walking. And they work, getting up, looking for food, scratching, running around, doing what they're doing from sun up all the way to sundown. And those are the ones that are just, what I'm going to say is when you see them, they're chill. Because it's fascinating that, again, the dogs are always out here. There's always something moving around. I just pop up randomly. But the ones that are out here, especially the seasoned ones, because all I have out here now, I would say, is they're over a year old. They're approaching 2 years old. So they're used to it. They are so calm. They're so relaxed. But these ones in here, they're so flighty. When the dog comes around here, they're always like, oh my goodness, what's going on? They're always on edge. They're on edge all the time. They're just constantly on edge because they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing, working all day. And because of how I said came in the beginning of keeping them caged, such as what we as humans are, caged. And then we stay caged. We never go out into the unknown and push past that fear. So then we're always in flight mode. We're always in just scared and nervous mode. We're not in that. I know how to handle that. Because like today, if randomly a dog will chase a chicken that's out here, it knows how to handle itself. It's like, oh my goodness, what's going on? And it runs and they smart. They'll run through a fence because the dogs can't go through fences. And now I'll let them jump the fences. Certain ones at certain times, and it's only when we're set up in a certain way, we're allowed to jump fences. But for the most part, we're not allowed to jump fences. So the chick's smart. Chick learns, oh, I do this, I'm safe, I'm good to go. Whereas these ones, they're gonna run back home and never come back out again. They're never even gonna attempt it. They're never even gonna try. They're just like, that's just too much for me. That's too scary for me. I can't, I'm not gonna be able to make it. And they just quit. And that's what I see is when, again, with human intervention with these animals, as opposed to allowing them to just be free and do what they do, the animals start to change. They're no longer, what I want to say is confident. This is where, talk about dog for a half a second. That's why most of them are scared today, because they're not getting the work that they need, that they require. That's the one thing that they're not getting. From sun up, they got to be doing something. To sundown, they need to be doing something. And sometimes even at sundown, we still got stuff that we still need to do. That's why for me, I work my dogs off that work relationship. We got stuff that we do. Some nights I'm out here this past couple of months, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, because I'm trying to get these mice out of here. And then it's kind of fun at the same time. But we out here, we working, we doing stuff. So when we're not working and doing stuff, what do you think we do? We sleep. These dogs are asleep, they're calm, they're chill, because they're getting worked is what they need. And then when they're getting worked, they're finally satisfied. They're content with life. They may not like have it in a sense of course they always want more. But that's everything. That's just what it is. That's just life in general. Everything wants more. That's the part that I'm trying to figure out more on, but it is what it is. But they start to realize to get more life because they're able to do what it is they need to do, as opposed to just being cooped up, locked up, behind closed doors all day. And that is keeping it to stay further and further into fear. So that when your dog gets outside, it's like, oh my goodness, it's got to run right back to the house. I mean, I don't know how many dogs that I've like seen this in my face with, that I come to your house and your dog goes outside in the front yard and it sees something like a dog walk across the street, it turns around and bolts right back to that front door again. It wants to go back to that safety. It doesn't want to push into the unknown. It doesn't want to go out and find it. And that's the part with me on why I'm going to say that certain people just in general are going to be much better with animals because they're willing to push past that unknown. Why is a homeless person's dog like nice? Because they push past the norm. I don't need that safety. I'm fine out here. I can survive. I can live. I'll make it. I'll figure it out. I don't know where my food's going to come from, but I'm going to go figure it out on my own. No one's just going to give it to me and make me just have to take the little bit just to be able to survive. Man, that's how work is today, people. They give you just enough to survive. I've read so many books, because back when I was doing my painting, hiring people and the whole concept of how to keep employees motivated to want to show up to work for one, be on time, and how to keep your retention, like how to keep them around, how to keep them to stay. And these books they all go into, unfortunately, the main thing is manipulation. You keep them just enough. You keep them just happy enough. You give them just enough to make sure that they're just a little behind, and they're going to stay because they can't go anywhere else. You're going to be behind on one, like, just unfortunate. I know life because I've lived this and I've done this and I talk to lots of people. Most people today, you're behind on one bill right now. One, you're behind on something. And they keep you hooked to just, you're right there so that you can't like finally just be free. But in reality, the only way to be free is to just go out, just trust and hope and faith. Just say, I'll be fine. I'll make it. And that's the part where that's the concept of why Jesus is a hard message, because that's what he's saying to people. Stop being in that cage and get out. Get out and explore and see something different, and know that you're going to be able to make it. You're going to make it. You're going to be fine. You're going to be able to continuously keep on eating. You're going to keep getting what you need. You're going to keep needing to get the clothes that you need. You're going to keep having to be able to get the housing that you need. You're going to be fine. But that's hard, because all we know is the cage of just staying in there. And then allows you to go out and make you think that you're free for a moment, to just only get scared to go right back in that cage. That's the unfortunate thing that I just see is how this life is on this planet. That's why me personally, again, what I do, where I live, and how I do this, it's not for everybody. It's definitely not. Just like how I can say those numbers of how the chickens do what they do when I let them free. About 10, 20%, I'd say 15 to 20 at minimum, go off and do what they do. That's the same as what I'd say is what I do right now. 20% of folks, this is you. You like, that's what I want to do. But 80% of people, you happy with the cage. You're happy with it. And that's the main problem that I'm going to say is why there's the concept of how it's written. The path is very, very narrow. It's very narrow. Because when you want to stay in the cage, you're not going nowhere in reality. You're not going to be able to actually live. You're in survival mode you're having to do it on your own means. That's the perfect way of saying it. Whereas you're not letting go and letting God. You're doing it on your own means. So you're not quite like, you're not trusting. You don't have faith. I'm just going to stay. As opposed to going out and just making it happen. And then you go out and then you start to learn more of how to be able to help others out. Because in most cases, I don't know what it is, but the roosters are cool. The ones that go out, these ones, these are my soft little boys. There's one out there, he's a little sensitive, but he's tough, man. He sees a dog and he's like, whatever. And he bands the girls together to say, hey, let's work together. He gets them together. He gets the girls to calm down. And he goes out further and further, because everywhere when I see they far, the rooster's with them. I got one out there. He's just a cool looking dude. He's everywhere. He walks this entire property all day long. He's everywhere. And he bands the girls up together. He'll have like 20, 30 hens with him all the time. Just to band up, just that we're safe, we're going to go and do it. And those are the few that are going to make it, is how, in reality, the book is written. Where it says, you go off, you trust me. I'm going to be able to give you what you need. Don't worry about that. Just trust me, I'm going to give you what you need. And it's fascinating to see that everything that's around him is flourishing and is good. Because he's really good at alerting to say, hey, watch out, there's something over here. Hey, watch out, there's something over there. That's what he does. That's his job. That's what he's all about. That's what God's all about, working for us. He's here to be able to help us. Not to just do for us, but to help us. Say, hey, there's danger over there. Maybe you should just go over there instead. You're like, okay, let's go over here instead. Hey, there might be some food over there. Your intuition is stating, like, maybe go over here because there's some food. You're like, okay, I'll go in. And there is food. Then you like go back the next day thinking, oh, I'm going to be able to double down and have the same thing again. No, actually, now it's over here. Now we got to go over this direction. Now you thought it was good over there. No, and actually now it's danger, because now there's a fox over there. Something new. And I don't even want you to experience it. Let's just go over here instead. And some days, let's just stay really close to the house. Really close. So that because there's something weird going on out there. You start to trust what's being said to you. And not in a way of, again, some folks is just stuck on this, think that God is talking to you. And it's the voice inside of your head that's talking to you. I'm going to say that's probably, this might be controversial to some people, but that's one of the biggest, in my opinion, lies. Yourself is talking to yourself. Something that is of this world is talking to yourself. God doesn't speak a language, a word to you. It's a, I don't want to use that word, but straight up is the best way of saying it. It's a feeling. It's intuition. It's your instincts that start to kick in. When you got that something dangerous is happening, it's your instincts that are stating that. You have no idea that there's a scary person behind you that's got evil intentions to try to harm you, but somehow you could have your back to it and your instincts kick in and say, we got to go. We got to move. That's God speaking to you to move. We got to do something. When you get that, your instincts that kick in, when you get that phone call and someone's like, hey, you're nervous or worried about some work or getting a job or something, your instincts are going to say, make that phone call. It's not a voice that's saying, hey, please do this, please do that. Because if your voice is saying that to you, you're living of this world. Your instincts are going to kick in to say, that's what we need to do. And that's how these animals out here work. Listen, these chickens, they no longer know how to live off instinct. They're living off of fear. They're living off of just hoping and praying and wishing that they get something for free so that they can be able to just survive. But they're not living free. They're in extreme fear. And since they're in fear, they're so easy to move around. They're so easy to control. They're so easy to do whatever I want to. They're so easy to manipulate. They're so easy. Because all they know is fear. They get scared. Right here, is he looking at them? He'll sit here and put pressure on them, and they'll just stand there and look at him like, we're not moving. We're not doing nothing. But the ones out here, they'll just get the heck out of here. They're like, I don't need to deal with that. I'm good to go. I'm fine. I don't need to worry about that. I'm going to go off and do what I need to do. Because they're not living in fear anymore. They got some of, no, straight up. That's how I see how they are. That's how I can bring dogs here that are like scared of this. My house is perfect for when your dog is like scared of the prey items and stuff. Because if I bring them to look at these, your dog's gonna go wild. This is the part where, man, a lot of y'all got these border collies, these Aussies, and all these like high prey drive dogs. They need to be around animals that are already calm. That's how that's how I learned how to work my dog. Don't put them around animals that are scared and sketchy. It's gonna force your dog in more intense drive. Because that's what they work off of. They work off that fear. But when the animals are chill and calm, your dog sees it and is just like, oh, okay, well, everything's fine here. Everything is all right. That's why certain wildlife is harder than others to deal with. Certain deer, they fight. Buffalo and elk and all these animals, they're going to fight back. They're not just going to, oh, you can just chase me. No, a lot of them are going to fight back. And that changes the dynamic of the dog, of realizing like, let me be a little more cool, calm, and collected here, because I don't need to get into this fight. I can go over there. This is what they do. We're just gonna do what we got to do. But when they're in fear, man, it's an extreme. It's a hot mess, battling, fighting, arguing, bickering, because you got nothing else to do. You got nothing else to do because you're not working, doing nothing. You're just sitting at home all day doing nothing. You got nothing to do. You got nothing to make happen. Waiting on your crumbs that they give you, waiting on your little bit, just enough. They're giving you just a good enough standard of living, just for you to just have to always stay in that fear. And that's the part that I just see as a human being collective of today. 80+% are just caged in, and they forced us that from birth instantly. They didn't even give us the option, at least, where there's some. That's why when I have some that hatch out their own babies out here, completely different experience of life. I've got a few out here. They are not scared of pretty much anything out here. Because as a baby chick, they've seen it all. They've dealt with everything. They know what it's like to just be out there and just have to figure it out. They're not getting a constant supply of food. They're not being babied. They're not being coddled. They're just living. And they turn out to be the ones that thrive the best. They're the most resilient. They're the funnest to be around. They're so peaceful. They don't have that like rush of, oh my goodness, I'm in danger. It's an interesting thing to just really see. But unfortunately, that's the part of genetics that's challenging. Because these ones are genetically made bred to be more of a free, out doing what they're doing. But since I've started them off being caged, they want to stay caged. But there's other ones that are genetically made to be caged, where I've got a lot of, I don't know if there's any right here. They're all in the field doing what they're doing. That's why it's impressive to see that they've somehow transformed to want to go and be free, even though they were bred to be caged. They some of them straight up they didn't make it, because when the cage wasn't when they get too scared and they want to stay in the cage and they don't come out and explore, because I've done all kinds of tests where I just stopped putting food in there to see what they would do. And some, I'm like, man, I got to feed y'all back again, because they just didn't know what to do. They're bred. Their genes state we are caged, and they don't know anything else. But I slowly was able to introduce to some of them, a whole bunch of them. There's at least 60 of them out here. The big brown ones, they're the meat birds. They're primarily a caged chicken from their genes. But I've been able to slowly show them we can be outside, because those are the ones I used to feed them outside. I stopped feeding in the coop. I'd feed them outside, feed them outside, feed them less, feed them less, feed them less, feed them less, and then they're on their own. And they're able to thrive and survive, because I came in to show them the way. There's a different way. That's what I can say is what God is, how it is to us as humans. He can show us a way. It's going to give you everything up front in a way of being able to survive, but he's going to lean you away from all that cage and all that control to say, okay, you're fine, you're good now. You're good to go. You can make it. And they're out there just living life. My goodness, it's fascinating to see them all around out here just doing what they're doing. It's super fascinating. I used to think that they were just going to stay here. No, they at the front road right now. They just out doing what they're doing. Eating, chasing bugs, scratching, digging, flapping, running, sunbathing. They're living the full life. Where these guys, they living, they're alive, but they're not living nothing of the same as when you finally get out of that fear, when you finally get out of that cage. Thank you. Hi. You watching them? There's something that I keep hearing this from lots of people, and it just confuses me, I think, because I just see life from a sense of doing and not just watching. Someone says that because a dog corrects a dog, a human should be able to do that same type of correction, the dog will understand it. Someone says that because the animal does something to the animal, that we can also do that to the animal and they'll understand. To me, that is just like foolish. That's very foolish. I communicate to my dog through work. The dog has a desire it has to do, and I communicate through that. I don't do it through play. I don't believe that most animals understand play. Play is weird. Work is what everything is out to do, is to work. That's what we're supposed to all be doing. Everything on this planet is just to work. It's the unfortunate thing. We all got to stay busy. We got to work. That's the standard of life. And I'm able to communicate through that work, not through playing, not through hanging out, not through any of that. So when I'm looking for something for my dog to do, I'm going to do it through work. I'm not going to do what another dog does to a dog. I'm going to do it in a sense that the dog understands the human as work. And it's like for me to say how to work with these chickens, that I see what the chicken does to the chicken, so I could be, no, I'm going to use the standard of how everything works in tune with each other. I can communicate to the chickens. I can communicate to the cows. I can communicate, they're just not even chicken for a second. Let's just go to the dog, because a lot of y'all, the sheep and the goats, because those are the two primary animals that these, especially like herding breeds, move. Because I see a ram work another ram and how they fight and play, I should be able to come in and be able to communicate to that ram to say, this is what I'm looking for you. It doesn't work that way. I bring in what that ram understands, the dog. The dog now speaks to the ram. The dog is telling to the ram what it wants and what we're looking for. And now that daisy chain came to me. So I went to the dog went to the ram went to his ladies understood, okay, this is what we do. That's why me and my cows, I don't have issues, because the dog went straight to who the boss, the bull. The dog went to the bull. I'm asking the bull, I want you to move over here right now. I can't just say that to the bull. I have to do it in a way that the bull understands communication. The dog knows how to communicate to the bull. I know how to communicate to the dog by allowing the dog to be able to communicate to the bull. So that working relationship that I have with that dog is able to explain to that dog what it is that I'm looking for. When I say stop, he's like, okay, I'll stop. When I say go, okay, let's go. When I say get down, okay, let's get down. That's my obedience, I guess, right there, through my work, through getting stuff done. And that's how I can communicate to the donkey, to the pig, to the everything I've ever had out here. I communicate because I communicate with the dog. And then I'm able to communicate with the dog through the work. I don't know how to say, I'm going to try to figure out how to say that more simply, but that's how we communicate to the animals. We don't just treat them the same way that they treat each other. That's silly to me. That doesn't show a level of intelligence. That just shows like caveman that we're still trying to guess. We have information today that we like know. We know more today than we ever have. But yet we're like trying to use techniques as if we're like still living in a cave, got nothing. No understanding, no anything, just still scared of the lion because we don't have weapons yet, still scared of dogs because we don't have another one to help protect us. We don't need to live that way. We don't live that way anymore. I don't treat an animal the way another animal treats an animal. I treat it like a intelligent human being that I am through work. And it's still weird. The play aspect is something that still, I just don't see chickens playing. I see young animals play. They run around. They like my baby. I think I got, unfortunately, two baby girls, my calves this year. They run, they play, they do what they do when they're really young. But then they get older and work, eat, move. That's it. Sun up to sundown. That's it. That's all that they do. Same with the baby chicks. They buck and cluck and they're so cute. But they just stop. And when they get older, it's all just work, eat, and move, and eat, and move. That's it. And in reality, that's where I believe us as humans, we're messing up. Because we care more about, I need more play, as opposed to more work. More work is what's going to ground you, as opposed to more play. More play is going to, and more hanging out, and more downtime, and more sitting in the cage, and sitting in the home time. That's what's destroying us right now.